Matt. Yes, Matt. His sanity was a questionable thing. It was unreliable to him. He was walking down the road, breathing heavily, breathing deeper and deeper into his soul as his heart expanded outward from the sheer pain as it shot through his body. It shot. He could feel each individual pain, each individual vein as they shot. The blood rushing through. It was agony to him, torture to his mind. He had to keep thinking of it, no matter what he did, no matter how much he prayed. His body was, and always will be, his worst enemy. He and only he will be his worst enemy. Only he can kill him, metaphorically speaking. He can die, sure. He can be killed like no other. But in the end, he will die. He will die a death. Whether it be slow or painful is not for him to choose. It is for those who surround him to choose. He smiled softly to himself, just wondering. Just wondering if this was it. He wondered if this is where it ended. His mind. He wondered if this is where he truly would die. In the deep bowels of his mind, in the recesses of his own insanity. Would this be it? No. No, 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 no. You see, Matt is more than just what he puts on. His real name isn't even Matt. He did that to block the insanity out of his mind. He's in a constant battle to stay alive with himself. And the sound of the trees rustling brought him out of his stupor. He turned slowly and saw velvet cream. He tried to process where he'd seen it before. His memory was failing. Velvet approached him slowly and said, "Hi, Matt. I wanted to thank you for everything you've done, and I thought I'd accompany you." He looked surprised. Some pony would want to accompany him. Some busted up fuck like him. He remembered all those times. What they said. He wasn't worth two shits. He wasn't worth a fuck. But now this individual was wanting to walk with him. Why? Why? He looked at Velvet and said, "Why would you want to travel with a man that's broken like me? You saw what I did in those caves, I think." She had a gentle contempt smile on her face, on her muzzle, and said, "That's not it. You see, you're different from them." "Different how? How am I different?" "Well, you could have killed us, but you didn't. Once you went on your rampage, you didn't hurt anyone else. You didn't care. You were just there. Look, Velvet, She went up, used her magic to force Matt's lips closed. Matt, you gotta stop. You're not crazy. He sighed, took a deep breath in, and then his thoughts came back. You know, Matt, she would make some nice deer antlers. You know what those are, right? We flay the skin, rip out the veins, and nail them to the wall like deer antlers. Wouldn't that be nice? But she doesn't deserve that, does she? No. No, you like her. You like a horse. You've truly went to a new insanity, haven't you, Matt? Now, let's find something. Some pony to kill. You're driving my patience. He shook his head vigorously. That wasn't the only thought he had. He thought of many things. He thought of gouging people's eyes out, tying them to chairs and throwing them off buildings, kicking them into, train tracks and let them get run over by a train, gouging their throat out with their own bones. It didn't matter. If it was fucked up, he thought of it. Even pitting people against each other for survival, he thought of it. He could probably make some decent money. He smiled. You hear that? He smiled. Not just to himself, but to you. Yes, you. You're perfect. He smiles to you. Without you, there's no reason for him to play God. You are the reason he plays these games. You are the reason he smiles. Every day he smiles. He smiles. Just smiles and smiles and smiles and smiles and smiles and smiles. He knocked himself out of his thoughts before he could lose it again, and kept walking with Velvet. Velvet. She was different. He took out a notepad that he had on hand and began writing. Velvet. She had white and a red mane. Velvet also had velvet eyes. Surprisingly, of course. And he looked again, staring at her, as if really, truly seeing her for the first time ever. He smiled. He just smiled softly to himself. Couldn't help but stare at her. She had a yellowish brown mane. Sorry, not mane, coat. And her tail was the same as her mane, red and white. He stared. They kept walking, and walking, and walking, and walking, and walking. Wondering. Wondering what? Wondering many things. None of them really said anything. But that's alright. He popped his fingers, mainly to get himself back into shape. Velvet cringed hearing this. A series of pops. She just smiled and shook her head as they kept walking. Look, I know that you have low confidence in yourself. I know you do. But you can't look at yourself like this. Why does it matter, Velvet? You look at me and see me as some kind of otherworldly being, something different, when in reality I'm a monster. I'm suddenly, out of nowhere, she stood up on both her forelegs, and then this sound could be heard. She had slapped, well, not really slapped, but clomped. Sounds like the correct pronunciation. Yes, clomped him in the face. Matt. Yes, Velvet, never say that again. But if you don't, and if you say that again, the next hoof will be between the legs. And don't doubt Earth Pony's strength. But you're a unicorn. Shut up. Anyway, I'd say a good way to show and bring your confidence back is to go to PonyVille, which we're at right now. He noticed that he had zoned out being stupid, and they were outside PonyVille. He looked, and then they screamed monster and ran inside their houses. He turned to Velvet, took a deep breath in, and said, "Bitch, for real?"